right, welcome back. And it's always a pleasure to have Dr. Faith B. Israel, Secretary of Health, Wellness and Social Protection. And good morning, Dr. Faith B. Israel, and Happy New Year to you.
Good morning, Happy New Year to both of you. Happy New Year to the entire viewing public. It's nice being here.
Very good. All right, let's get straight into it, this new variant. But before that, let's get to where are we with our numbers in Tobago. Of course, we are hearing about an increase in numbers of COVID-19. Give us overall view as to where we are with the numbers.
So several things has happened over the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you recognize that we have actually stopped sending out the weekly set of numbers. And that's because we wanted individuals to know that if you see us sending out something, it's because we need you to pay attention. You know, when you start hearing something all the time, when you're seeing something all the time, you're not paying attention to it. So we are actually spending time in the background doing quite a bit of the looking at the numbers. The numbers are actually pretty low. They went up a little bit right after, we expected 2 weeks after Christmas they would go up a little bit. That's a normal thing. But they are generally pretty low at this point, single digits per day. Most days probably 1 or 2, several days 0 in terms of the number of actual new infections that is actually reported. And this is where this is critical. We are at a point now where the COVID that is circulating in the community is actually not making you sick. So you started by asking about the new variant.
Yes.
There isn't a new variant per se. What we have circulating is Omicron. We've been speaking about Omicron all of last year. Before Omicron, we were talking about Delta. Delta was the one that when I just came in as Secretary for Health, we were getting the 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8 deaths per day with Delta. We've moved into Omicron. Omicron now, we now have a sub-variant of Omicron, meaning it's the same Omicron, but there's just a little teeny-weeny shift in what the virus looks like. And that is doing two main things. One, if you read the data, CDC, WHO, and so forth, you would actually hear that this subvariant, XBB.1.5, is more infectious, meaning people are getting it. More people are getting it. What we've also recognized though, is that those people who are getting it are not getting sick. So the people who, it was spoken about yesterday in the Prime Minister's press conference, we are identifying people who have COVID because they came to the hospital with a broken hand. That's why they came to the hospital, with a broken hand, with a broken foot, with some other issue. Because we are doing routine testing in the hospital, we test them and we find out that they have COVID because we did the routine testing, because they are not having any normal flu-like symptoms. They're not feeling sick. They really just came because they fall along and break their hand. And that is what is happening right now with the infection. It means that our bodies have evolved, our bodies have gotten more accustomed to it. Those of us like me who've gotten vaccinated and boosted, it means that our bodies have changed, but it means the virus has also changed a bit, which is why one of the things the Prime Minister and the team said yesterday is that we are actually moving away from the parallel system where we are separating people completely who have COVID. What we did before was put them up the fort, wait until the COVID resolved, and then started back treating whatever they were sick with. We are moving away from that because if we do that, there is no need to do that as rigidly as we were doing it before, because we will get COVID, but it is not causing us to be as sick as it did before.
But Dr. Faith B. Israel, it's not causing us to be as sick, but what are the signs to look for on a day-to-day basis?
So that's the thing, because so many people are getting it's almost like an incidental thing. The flu-like symptoms are still the flu-like symptoms, which is fine. But as I said before, I can be sitting right next to you. I do not necessarily have flu-like symptoms, but I have the virus inside of me. So it's not exhibiting the way it used to with the rigid flu-like symptoms, because we have evolved so much and because the virus has evolved so much. So I would actually tell people to don't worry about the symptoms, because I could be sitting right next to you and the symptoms, I am asymptomatic. I'm showing no signs of the typical, you know, the runny nose, those things that we think about when we have a flu, and I could still have COVID right next to you.
But wouldn't that, how to put it, don't worry about the symptoms and the fact that you're not really getting sick. Wouldn't that deter persons from wanting to take the booster or even the vaccine if they haven't been vaccinated?
So that's why I said it's at this point, it is up to each person. It has always been up to each person to make a decision for themselves. Now, it's also important to note that those individuals who are, who have other diseases, who have, you know, the diabetes and the heart disease and the cancers and all of those things, we still have other variants of COVID milling around, and we still have every now and then a death as a result of COVID. You may have one every 1 or 2, 3 weeks, one a month, that kind of thing. Now, for individuals who, and when you look at the description of who those individuals are, they are still people who were unvaccinated. They are still people who had other comorbidities. They are still people who were pretty old. See, those three things together makes it difficult for that person in particular to withstand the infection. Me and you might be fine, but those things make it difficult for those people to withstand it. And that's why we have always said, listen, as much as all of these conspiracy theorists and all of that, you had to take responsibility for yourself and for your own health and for what you do. If you know that you are in those categories where, you know, you still need to be even more cautious than the rest of us, then you do what you have to do. That includes, by the way, wearing masks. So the mandate to wear masks is no longer there in the general space. You still are required to wear masks in health situations, in health centers and hospitals and so forth. But if you as a man or woman know that you ain't really feeling good and you're going into a public space where there are other people, you wear your mask. It is your responsibility to do what you need to do to protect yourself.
All right, good. So we've heard the news in China and push the panic button right home here, given what we experienced in the first wave of pandemic 2019.
2019, 2020.
Yeah. Given this new strain, as you have just, well, to some extent, is not pushing the panic button. Right. So, yeah. So, what precautions should we take? Do we need to take precaution, given the world has banned flights from China and that sort of thing? The situation in China, do we need to be mindful, and what precautions should we take from a protective standpoint for our citizens?
Certainly. Well, you know, my team and I, even though we have not been making public statements about it, my team and I, we've actually been meeting and discussing what the data actually shows. China, what is happening in China causes people to panic. Yes. But let me tell you what happened in China. China went from having total lockdown in essence to releasing, to lifting all of their lockdowns. Automatically, once you do that, you are going to get more infections because you went from total lockdown to just open back up. That is going to happen. China also did something which was, they said, we're no longer reporting about it, which caused people to be suspicious and just, you know, concerned about why all you're not reporting kind of thing. So those two things together got the world a little angsty. When we look at the data though, you know, China is not at the top of the list of COVID infections. No. Japan, the Americas, all of these other places, South America, all around us, that is where the highest rates are. It's really not China. So even when you hear countries saying they are banning flights from China, or they're saying you have to be COVID tested coming from China, China is not the issue. You are focusing on one thing on this side when everybody else coming in free, and they are the ones who have the highest rates, they are the ones who have the highest numbers, they are the ones you need to be concerned about. So, and these are discussions that we've been having internally with my county medical officer of health and my other infectious control professionals and, you know, folks at the TRHA and so forth. These are the conversations that we've been having to say, okay, let us not just panic because the world seems to be going crazy about this one thing. Let us look at what it actually says, look at where we are going, and let us make rational decisions. And in the Prime Minister's credit, that is what they are also doing in Trinidad, and that is why he made the announcements yesterday that we are not going to ban flights from China, because when you look at the data, it gives no credence to doing that when you look at everywhere else and so forth.
But in terms of taking precautionary measures, during the pandemic, of course, we had PCR tests. You had to provide that if you have to travel or come into the country. Should we resort to that, given this new variant that the population is panicking about?
There is no reason at this point, given the numbers that we are seeing, given okay, so the thing that causes countries to be cautious or to go into panic is what happens in our hospitals. You see, if we start getting a lot of people hospitalized, a lot of people going into the ICUs, and a lot of people dying, that is what causes an issue nationally. And those are the indicators that we usually use to determine whether we need to lock down, whether we need to have additional measures or not. The numbers that we are seeing now are not going in that direction at this point. Next week, week after, a month from now, we will continue having the conversation, and I think that is part of how we need to think about this. We are looking at the data that we have now. If a month from now we see something different, we could change because we are looking at the data that we have in front of us. Going back to what the precautions are, we have been saying it since then. The precautions that we are telling people to do are the same precautions. If you feel that you are one of those people who are in the high-risk groups, you still wear your mask. You still put on your mask and walk out. By the way, I keep seeing people who have the mask, but the mask below their chin still. If all your mask below your chin, you're not wearing the mask. Just take off your mask, please. Yeah. If you're wearing the mask, wear the mask. Exactly. If you're not wearing the mask, take off the mask. So don't wear it below your chin, and don't wear it and then when you start to talk, take it down, because it's when you're talking it coming out. So if you're wearing the mask, wear it properly. Keep washing and sanitizing your hands, because again, the virus is still, if it's on your hand, the soap and water or the alcohol kills it. We are actually encouraging people to not let up on that, because that, in addition to preventing COVID, that also prevents some of the gastrointestinal things that we are seeing popping back up. So we realize since people start relaxing of the washing of their hands and so on, we are actually seeing people with, vomiting and diarrhea.
And what is the situation with that as it stands?
So it is actually kind of milling back down, because we've been pushing to the restaurants and the hotels and that kind of stuff. Don't let up on the washing of the hands, don't let up on the washing your food properly and making sure you're doing your prep properly and that kind of thing. We've been doing that in the background as well. But again, so keep washing your hands. Of course, if you actually feel sick, and you have flu-like symptoms, stay home if you can, wear your mask, that kind of thing. So we have not changed any of the recommendations. We are just saying now we are at the point where this is no longer a pandemic. Mm-hmm. We are at the point where we are using the term endemic, but endemic means high but stable. And we are at the point now where it's not really high at this point, we don't know what a week, 2 weeks down the road would happen, and then we have to look at Carnival and all of that.
I was just about to ask you about that.
Right. So we are at the point now where we are classifying it as an endemic, meaning we are now having to figure out how to live with it. Okay. So let me just say though, which is why, if you see a report coming out of the Division of Health, Wellness and Social Protection that speaks something about COVID numbers, pay attention to it, because we are sending it out because we need you to look at the numbers at that point.
Okay. And as you mentioned, Carnival 2023, the mother of all carnivals in Tobago, anything specific towards treating with or in anticipation for a potential spike?
Yeah, so we've actually been again meeting, I guess part of our issue is that we do not publicize a lot of these things. We've been actually meeting with the tourism stakeholders. A couple weeks ago, we actually had a launch of some standards, some international standards, and it was launched in Tobago, where we have our hoteliers, our restaurant folks, and those people are looking at these standards. So what we are doing is actually rolling out those things. We've had meetings with the tourism stakeholders and have decided that we are really going to push on the education, on reminding people to keep washing their hands and doing those things. You know, those are the areas that we are pushing in anticipation of Carnival happening, in anticipation of that kind of mass gathering that we know will happen for Carnival. And we'll just look at the numbers and see where it goes.
Okay. So there's readiness and so on. All right, we covered everything on COVID. I want to shift gears to, of course, the question everyone has on their lips as to, and of course, the last time we asked, you said it's in the hands of the government. And that's the 𝙤𝙤𝙬 board, Dr. Faith. And of course, we know so much responsibility is on the shoulders of the board as to navigate our way through these trying times in health and so on. Where are we with that?
And I am glad that you asked that question. And asking that question allows me to answer it truthfully. I spoke to representatives from the Office of the President either late last week or early this week. Today's a Friday, so it's probably early this week. And they indicated that they have done all that they need to do, and they have sent back the instruments to the Cabinet Secretariat. So we still wait. Now, this is a perfect example of why I think and why we think that we need to have a greater level of autonomy for Tobago and Tobago story, because something like this should not be going through this whole long ring around the roses story. But it is going through the steps, it's going through the changes. The Office of the President said it, they sent it back, so we wait.
Mm-hmm. All right, and so with the so as soon as that board is established, there are some responsibilities that is in the remit, under the remit of the board. Priority number one, that well, of course, you would of course be guided by what the board recommends.
Actually, it goes the other direction. Let me explain what happens.
Fine.
It is okay. So the Executive Council, the Tobago House of Assembly, is the entity that provides policy direction. Full stop. Through the 5th schedule of the Tobago House of Assembly Act, those of us who have been elected are the ones who provide policy guidelines. The boards, all of them, boards, committees, whatever they are, the chair of the boards report to their respective secretaries. So the chair of this board will be reporting to me.
Great.
So it is not that I have to wait for the recommendation of the board. It is the policy of the secretary is then transmitted to the board, and the board guides how the TRHA implements it. Right. Which is why the fact that the board is not there now does not necessarily prevent the policy of the secretary from going to the TRHA and having the TRHA implement it. Which is why we have been, functioning. The TRHA did not shut down for the last year. They have been functioning.
At some point in time, you did boast that the Roxborough Hospital is in full operation.
I did not boast that.
All right, but no, well, we all want to be happy that we can claim that we have 2 hospitals up and running. Where are we with the status of the hospital in Roxborough?
No, we are not there yet. We actually had, if you saw, a post at the Division of Health's Facebook page, either early this week or last week. We had representatives from the pharmacy board and so forth come in to make sure that all of these little things are in place. We still, honestly, are having significant challenges with getting HR, with getting some of the specialists that we need to fill the positions to make it 24/7. So right now, what is there? We have, well, the health center services are still happening, the health center services. We have an accident and emergency service that is available from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday. We are actually currently using the inpatient area to do the cataract surgeries. That is what is happening. That is where the cataract surgeries are happening. But we are not at the point yet where we have inpatients. We also have clinics, outpatient clinics. So if you need a gynae clinic or a medical clinic or whatever, those are still happening. But if you have to sleep in the hospital, we are not at the point yet where you can sleep overnight in the hospital. We are not there yet.
Okay, and recently I saw, according to your Facebook post, one particular post promoting a blood drive or blood banks situation. Just explain that.
Yeah, we are having significant challenges with blood reserves, meaning if you need to go into a surgery, we need to make sure we have blood sitting there just in case something happens and you need blood. So we're actually encouraging people to go to the blood bank and donate. Do not wait until your cousin or neighbor or loved one needs blood. All healthy adults, there is no age limit in terms of giving blood. Once you are healthy generally, you can give blood. And let me share the number that you can call if you want. If you just have concerns, you know, your specific situation, and you have concerns about it. Let me pull up that post for you. Let's see here.
All right.
To the number to donate blood, but the blood bank is up at the hospital, is up at the Scarborough General Hospital.
Yes, and I'm seeing 1 pint of blood can save up to 3 lives.
To 3 lives, exactly. So the number you call 660-4744, extension 3098 or 3099.
Can vaccinated people give blood?
Yes, vaccinated people can give blood, unvaccinated people can give blood, young people could give blood, old people could give blood, people who, you know, yes.
With no if comorbidities, you're the bad, of course.
No. If you have comorbidities, you can give blood depending on what the comorbidity is. That is why for your specific situation, you would, you know, they would then guide you. But call the number 660-4744, extension 3098 or 3099 and ask about your specific situation.
All right, we're getting the wind up, but I must, while I have you here, obviously, Watson Duke was here, and you have, of course, grand charge and offering of the olive branch, Dr. Faith, to meet with the Chief Secretary, and is asking that, you know, they have a sit down. How confident are you that this, and is there any intent, given that you are Deputy Chief Secretary, to have a chat with Watson Duke about reconciliation?
Who?
You like the baccarat? All right, so there is no consideration or taking seriously what Watson would have said here a couple of days ago?
The Executive Council, the entire executive of the Tobago House of Assembly, is busy minding the business of Tobago.
Oh boy. Mr. Cox?
There's nothing else to say. I can't say anything after that. But what I could ask you do is, you when we spoke with you last year, at the ending of last year, you said that some considerations is being done with regards to the office of the Deputy Chief Sec. Any update?
No updates from me.
Okay.
I'll allow the chief.
Yes.
I'll allow the chief to make those updates.
Okay then.
All right. Well, so we're waiting on that. All right. So they're giving us the wind up, and of course, Dr. Faith, it's always a pleasure. And well, clearly, there's no real consideration for Watson's grand charge. So I guess that we won't pursue that. But in closing, COVID-19 is still here, and of course, you would have given us the caution. And just in closing, what would you want to see treating with this new variant?
Certainly, with this new sub-variant of Omicron, definitely keep doing what we've been telling you to do. Keep washing your hands, keep wearing your mask if you think that that is what is absolutely necessary for you to do. Keep getting vaccinated. The vaccines are available in our health centers. If you know that you have flu-like symptoms, then stay home. If you have to go out, keep your mask on and that kind of thing. Once you are in a health facility, you have to wear the mask. So don't go up in the hospital, in the health center, and quarrel with them when they tell you, put on your mask. You have to wear the mask. Okay. And that is where we are really encouraging people. And again, we're not just doing this for COVID, particularly the hand washing and that kind of thing. That is helping with some of the other issues we are seeing as well. And we have to learn, we are now learning to live with COVID the same way we've learned to live with other flus and that kind of thing. So it's just a matter of time before we are getting back to normal, even with COVID.
Very good. All right, Dr. Faith, thank you very much. All right, so that is where we're going to leave it this morning, and all the best to you. It's too early to say Happy Carnival? No. I mean,
no. Have I been to
any
any carnival events yet? Oh, I am going to Pan on Saturday night. As long as I'm alive, I'll be in Trinidad supporting our Tobago.
Very good. Oh, yeah. We didn't even get a chance to
There are 6 bands. There are 6 bands representing
from Tobago.
From Tobago.
And of course, I think, and your band is
T&Tech
East Side.
Right. I'll live in the pan yard.
All right. I spoke about the power East Side in the early days, but anyhow, and all the best to the rest of the bands who are going to compete in Trinidad on Saturday. And so all the best to you. With that, we're going to leave it there.
Yesterday is the best day in the year. Not yesterday. Yes, Today is the best day in the year. Every day should be the best day in the year. In fact, my name is Jumani Juby Cox. Thanks for joining us, and it's a Friday.
Of course, and I advise you to eat healthy, and of course, hey, with that, embrace the urgency of today, for tomorrow is a mystery. But I'll be saying so long.